59 years old. Many of you are youngins, your 20s, your 30s, whatever. I remember being your age and thinking so clearly about what it must be like to be so decrepit and so kind of done with life. 60, 59, 60 years old. My gosh, it's over, right? They've done whatever they're going to do, if they were going to do anything. Wow, what if retired? What is it, 55? I think when I was a kid, people retired, and that meant, kind of hanging things up, sitting on the couch, kicking back. Well, as you've heard from many, many, many old folk like me, when you get here, things change. Your perspective on what is old changes. Your perspective on what's important changes. And from my perspective, if you've lived well, you've learned how little you know. So that's something I reflect on pretty often. The more I learn, the more I realize I have to learn. And that's fun for me, to remain as open-minded as possible. That's not to say that I don't and haven't gathered insights, particularly with respect to who we are as humans over the years. And although I try to always remain open to input about who we are, it has become rather clear to me that I tend to be more introspective, tend to be more focused on who people are and how we treat one another than most other folks I encounter. So often that comes across to people, I think, as arrogance and being cocky. I'll talk about things that appear as if I might not be flexible, as if I might not be interested in input. It's not true. I'm often, if not always, I always try to be interested in input with respect to anything, but particularly about who people perceive themselves to be compared with who I perceive them to be. I've found, particularly in my most enjoyable relationships, those who are looking for input, external input, how they are perceived by me, for example, who they respect as someone who is observant, to be rewarding. Those kinds of conversations tend to be rewarding. The flip side is also true. When people aren't interested, as many, many people who comment on the YouTube are really interested in making their comments, they're not really interested in learning anything from my responses to their comments. I like that too. I don't care, truthfully. I don't know them. If they aren't interested in really engaging and trying to understand reality, then why would I invest in caring about how they might take something I say in response to their comments? I don't. It's a waste of time. So sometimes I don't comment, but sometimes I will respond because I know other people who are more interested in reality are reading both the original comment and my responses to it. I don't always have time to obviously respond to the social media comments across the many different social media venues, but I try to. And that's an interesting dynamic at 59 years old, recognizing how connections are made differently. There's no dating anymore. Here I am single at 59. That's interesting. But what's dating? I don't find guys coming up to me and asking me to dinner to get to know me. That's what would have happened when, in my day, back before I needed the cane. Guys would ask you out, or I'd ask out somebody, and we'd go to dinner, or we'd do something, a hike, or I've had some pretty adventuresome dates. I've gone scuba diving, I've gone hiking mountains, I've gone camping. I've done all kinds of fun things, but those things seem gone. They don't seem part of what people do now in dating. As I talk with folk, I'm intrigued by whether or not our methods of connecting in today's world of social media and email and Twitter and texting, and how that might play out after you do spend plenty of time together physically. Have you the base? Have you the core to extend that relationship longer and longer and longer, like marriages that have lasted lifetimes? I don't know. I was in a marriage for 14 years and I really believed it was an amazing relationship. Shocking to me when I found him cheating, and he was with somebody who was also married, and they both left us and are married now. Why did they marry? What's the point of marrying if you left a marriage that you didn't even try to work on? I don't understand it. So that's an interesting dynamic. I guess what I'm responding to is a question from somebody who's asked, what am I reflecting on at this age? And I'd like to think I'm reflecting on more and more and more. It changes over time. I just appreciate the idea that I like to reflect on my life. I like to reflect on the world in this time of a pandemic when we are all kind of staying home and kind of keeping our distance from others physically. I do reflect on what that will turn into. I think as we, get takeout from restaurants and we don't sit down and go to dinner and we connect more and more by text, that the dynamics of who we are and how we interact with one another may change more permanently than people have been thinking. The truth is, there have always been viruses. And the truth is, we don't know whether the next one will come in 100 years that we aren't prepared for, or next year. And whether it might be even more pervasive, more dangerous and destructive than is this coronavirus. Who knows? But those are interesting things to think about. If I were to get the coronavirus now during this pandemic, who knows if I'd make it through it. I'm of that age, 59, that they say that's an underlying condition. When I had my knee replaced, I got pneumonia in the operating room. Did that affect my lungs in ways that this might be it? I'm okay with that. We all have this period of time, and we spend it as we choose. Those parts of my life for which I have been able to accept responsibility, I'm happy about. There are lots of impact on my life and my family's life that were imposed and continue to be imposed by external forces that I truly don't have control over, that have to do with homophobia and prejudices and broken systems within our government as a result of what we've done to become a society, and how little we have focused on making those kind of guidelines and rules and judicial systems, etc., fair or equitable or even intelligent, do have impacts that I can't control. I do what I can to remain aware of that and move through it, but such is life. Again, I'm really happy with my own choices and how I may have lived differently than others, but for me, the choices I've made have been rewarding. 80% of you who are listening to these videos have not subscribed to my channel. Please subscribe. Just hit the subscription button and hit the notification button, and you'll be informed when I have another video up for you to listen to. After you've subscribed, comment. Comment positively, comment negatively. No holds barred. Just say what you're thinking. That's what will make our exchange even more valuable. As I'm able, I'll create new videos responsive to that commentary. So like away, or dislike on that rare occasion you may feel the need to do so. But either way, thank you.